Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dire Penguin, and welcome to a look at Starsector. This game used to be known as Starfarer. It's by Fractal Softworks, and it's available on their website, link down in the description. It was started in 2010. I bumped into the game in 2011 when it was just a combat module that had a few missions that you could play. It would give you a fleet and an enemy fleet to take on, and you'd go fight. And it was promised this deep, engaging combat, but that's all there was. There wasn't a game on top of that. And I actually purchased the game way back in 2011, and then forgot about it entirely. For 5 years, this game has been maturing and developing, and I just happened to rediscover it. I was on a forum, and somebody happened to mention it, and I went and I looked it up, because that's what you do. And I went, I've played this game before. And I went digging through my emails, I found a key, I downloaded it, it's available on their website, just, you can download it if you have a key. And it's not early access on Steam or anything, but I installed it, it accepted it, and I am blown away. This game looks fantastic, and it looks like it has some fantastic gameplay. It's not done, but they've kind of gotten to that point where most of the features are in, and they're entering into the polish phase, according to their blog. It is currently $15. Once it is released, it will be $20. So currently 25% off there. Again, link in the description if this looks like something that you'd be interested in. But what I want to go ahead and show you is some of that combat first. Sorry, there appears to be some gunfire going off over there. What I want to show you is some of the combat first, and then come back and show you some of the overworld map gameplay. And the reason for that is the third tutorial shows you some fleet combat, and I suspect, depending on what start we choose for our run-through, that it may be a while before we get fleet-based combat. So I want to go ahead and show you that, because that's an expectation of what you will be able to achieve in the game further on in, you know, if we get there in this look at it. Okay, welcome back, folks. So what we've done in this tutorial is give some basic commands to our ships. Nothing too major, just a quick capture of this point and a capture of this point. And it's interesting because this game gives you two ways of issuing those orders. I can click on a point and I can just say capture. And a fleet or a ship will come over and capture that point. I don't have to direct who does it. So if I have a large fleet engagement, I can just give my priorities, such as defend here, capture here, rally around the carriers. I don't have to actually necessarily give direct orders such as this ship move here, this ship move here in an RTS style. I can just give priorities. But what's also interesting about this is I don't have to bring out all of my forces at one time. And in fact, I haven't. That's actually what the tutorial wants me to do, is go up here and deploy some additional ships, because I have available deployment points. So you have a limit on how many ships you can bring out at any one time. If you lose ships or if you retreat ships, then you'll be able to bring other ships out. So this allows you to hold some ships in reserve, and also allows you to not necessarily bring out some ships you may not want to engage in combat unless it's absolutely necessary. Because, for instance, you might have some ships that aren't very good at combat. Maybe you're trying to protect them. Maybe they're transports or something like that. This says it's a freighter, but it's actually a carrier. It's a converted carrier. It has a flight deck. So this ship it will actually bring in and engage with. But we also have a destroyer that we'll be bringing out. We already have out 2 frigates and 2 interceptor wings. So let's go ahead and bring those out. And they'll join out and the tutorial will continue. So let's go ahead and let the tutorial do its thing. We're going to select that ship, tell it to move over here. And I'll fill you in on what's happening. So what's going to happen is we're going to move over here, and the enemy has engaged us. Okay, so now we can take a look at what they're bringing. Now this is scripted in the tutorial, but they bring the same thing every time. But I suspect you actually start the mission with the enemy forces already on the field. I'm not 100% sure though. But they've come with a carrier of their own, a light support carrier. I don't know if that's better or worse than ours, but as well as a destroyer and 5 fighter wings. Now, you might think we're outnumbered here, but we're actually going to be fine. I don't think I've ever lost a ship doing this. We have 2 fighter wings. I'm not spotting the other one at the moment. Oh, it's all the way up here. Okay, we might lose one. We also have 2 frigates and the destroyer and carrier. Now, our forces are arrayed in kind of scattered, but you'll actually see that the the pilots on these ships are already reacting to the enemy presence. You'll notice these little red arrows that they're showing what they're thinking of doing. And if I let it actually continue, they'll probably get retreat orders back to these points because they want to control those points. So we can also directly give orders, which the tutorial wants us to do. We are going to select these 2 fighter wings. We're going to tell them to rally around our destroyer, which we're going to be controlling through the rest of this tutorial. And that's really nice because we're going to have built-in anti-fighter defense. So you can also take control of the ship, and that's what it's about to talk us through. So I can actually transfer command to the ship. When I do that, a little shuttle will spawn, fly up toward the ship, install itself, and now I have control. Now that's actually very important because I could, for instance, transfer control to this ship over here, but it takes time. So I can't just hop between ship to ship to ship. It takes a little bit of time, and that's reasonable. Okay, so now we're free to do whatever we want. The tutorial messages are gone. We just have this very nice fleet engagement that's been set up for us, which is what I wanted. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that appears to be on the screen, but it's really actually pretty simple. A lot of it is just relevant information that you might need to look at once in a while. So ships in this game have shields, which I currently don't have turned on. They have armor, they have hull, and they have flux. Only 2 of these are actually shown as kind of like a health bar. Flux is the weirdest of those. The other 2 are going to be visible and very obvious. Shields you'll see as a bubble around your craft, and your shields don't really have a strength. Instead, taking damage on your shields is going to increase your flux. Flux is like thermal energy. It's you can vent it, you can dissipate it over time, but it's kind of you can think of it like thermal energy, heat. And if it builds up too far, then you have to go into this emergency override, and it disables your shields and your weapons, and you have to vent all this flux out. You can also manually vent, which is important to do, because you're going to gain flux by taking any damage on your shields, by firing any weapons, and by keeping your shields up. Now, keeping your shields up is not going to introduce so much flux that just over time you'd overload. You have a natural dissipation rate, and your shields are almost assuredly accumulating flux at a lower rate than you can just naturally dissipate. But if you're firing weapons as well, and somebody is firing on you, then you might overload. And that's actually a viable strategy against the enemy. You can take weapon selections that just focus on overloading them and just shutting them down so they have to immediately just vent all this flux. And what's also interesting is damage that you take on your shield is hard flux. And this is flux that is not naturally dissipated. You'll actually see it as it accumulates. You'll see a little bar. It'll be a progress bar for total flux, but you'll see a little vertical bar that as I take damage will move up. And the only way to get rid of that is either by overloading or by manually venting, which again, that's going to disable your shields and your weapons. So you have to choose a very tactical time when you want to do that. This is part of that depth of combat that makes this game so interesting. In addition, you have several weapons down here. I have heavy machine guns, missiles, light assault guns, and point defense lasers. Now, a lot of these are on auto fire, although I'll be using the heavy machine guns some, but they do different damage types. And some of those damage types are going to do a lot of damage to shields. And so you can really quickly overload somebody by giving them way too much flux. Or there might be EMP damage, which might disable some of their subsystems. You might be able to disable their engines, for instance. Additionally, there's going to be weapon types that are good against armor and good against fighters, and lasers, I believe, just do a lower damage, but they're good against everything. They just do their stated damage. Now, unfortunately, my lasers are point defense lasers. You can see that little PD there. And so they're going to be focusing on shooting down incoming missiles and any fighters that are in the area. Okay, so that's probably all you really need to know initially. There's a few other things over here. You'll notice you have some stat boosts and things. For instance, right now I have no flux, so I have an engine speed boost. So I'm actually going to take advantage of that to quickly close with the enemy. And I can't see where he's going yet, so I'm just going to fly forward. We're going to pause. I have it again. I have this quick boost from having my shields down. Okay, so let's see where he's going. Okay, we have 2 fighter wings coming over here. This frigate should probably be able to handle them okay. I don't expect he'd have too much problem. If it does prove to be too much problem, then we'll deal with that. But our ship over here, our carrier, is going to be able to continually send out fighters and replace any losses we take. The important thing is they sent their destroyer over here, and that destroyer is probably going to be stronger than my frigate, and in fact, these fighters are retreating to escort me. So that's where I'm going to want to go, because I want to take them on with my destroyer. So, I believe these symbols up here indicate what class of enemy ship it is. That looks like the carrier, this looks like the destroyer, and these look like some fighters. Not sure what that is, maybe it's a fighter wing that's taken some damage, but... So we're going to fly up there. And once we get close, we'll activate our shield. Actually, why don't we just shoot through some of these fighters. Show off how some of that works. Notice I have a weak spot in my back. If I take too much fire on my back end, I'll actually be taking hull damage. Okay, so we've got a fighter numerical advantage now. Let's go ahead and drop the shields, vent any flux that we have. We're currently on 0. And re-engage this guy. Switch over to my missiles. And we're just going to start trying to overload his flux. Notice we overloaded his flux very quickly. Accidentally deactivated my shields, but not too bad. I'm building up flux. I'll need to vent soon. But I want to disable this guy's engines and do as much damage as I can before he has a chance to fire back. He's taking a ton of damage. Okay, he's gone. Now, look, I have a lot of flux here, but I can manually vent. And then we'll quickly drop it. And I'm back online. Now, my next target is obviously going to be this carrier up here. Now, these fighters will continue to spawn from the carrier, so there's no sense in automatically targeting them. What's also interesting is that this frigate over here, the one frigate came over and supported me, but he's actually going directly after these points, and I believe he's going to try to secure this relay automatically. You can actually kind of trust the AI in this game, and I believe that these ships have officers that level up and they get smarter. You can actually... I think they have stats such as aggressiveness and things like that. So you can actually say, okay, well, I don't want my carrier being aggressive, so I'm going to put a captain on that that's not very good at aggressiveness or something like that. I haven't gotten far enough in the game to find that out, but I do know that if you click on one of these, you can actually see that their crew component is listed as regular. And when I was in the deployment list, that looked like that could change. So crew level regular. So you might be able to get veteran crews and things like that that'll make your ships better. So let's go ahead and we're going to take off the shields to try to get close with this carrier up here, because I think he's about the same speed as I am. You can actually see I've taken a little bit of armor damage on my ship. Nothing too significant. I haven't taken any hull damage, just armor damage. So let's see. I still have some missiles left, so let's... Oops. Fire a missile at him, but he's dead now. So, one of the things that's absolutely brilliant about this game, and I don't think I've shown off yet, is with the different weapons, very neat way of showing your weapons in this game. And it may be very hard for you to see if you're on a mobile phone or on a reduced video quality, but there are weapon arcs in this game, and then there are little pips that are showing where your turrets are currently located. I currently have my missiles activated, and they're kind of like frontal torpedo tubes. You can see that because of this weapon arc is very narrow, and you can actually see I'm currently aiming straight down that firing arc. But if I switch to a different weapon, notice these weapons have large arcs on them, maybe 120 degrees maybe, and you can see where those turrets are currently aiming within that arc. So if here I'm going to have it on cannons. If I unpause it, I can actually traverse my cannons through that firing arc. But I'm going to go ahead and just focus on killing this guy. But it's a very clear way of showing where your weapons are currently pointing and what you're going to be, what your range is. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant because that's necessary information that you need to know. And positioning matters so much in this game. Okay, so there's our first look at fleet combat, and I wanted to go ahead and show you that because, again, we may not have a time early on in the game when we're going to get that level of action, but that shows you what this game can do and how it looks. I think this game is really nice looking. Kudos to the developers on that. I'm Ben Dire Penguin. I'll see you next time when we take a look at the Overland map. Thanks for watching, folks.